books and it was going very well. So I just forgot to send a message until later I realized. So I'm sorry about that. I'll be more careful in the future. Some of you were texting me. Okay, so anybody like to share anything before we have class? Sugandha? Okay, so we will have the class on Ramayana.
Yes, Prabhuji. Let me share my screen. So we'll read from Canto 5. This is a section of prayers by Hanuman. Suro asuro vape atha vanaro naraha sarvatmana yah sukritangam uttamam bhajeta ramam manujakritim harim ya uttaran anayat koshalan divam iti. So Hanuman is praying. Therefore, whether one is a demigod or a demon, a man or a creature other than man, such as a beast or bird, everyone should worship Lord Ramachandra, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who appears on this earth just like a human being. There is no need of great austerities or penances to worship the Lord, for he accepts even a small service offered by his devotee. Thus he is satisfied, and as soon as he is satisfied, the devotee is successful. Indeed, Lord Ramachandra brought all the devotees of Ayodhya back home, back to Godhead, Vaikuntha. So, purport: Lord Sri Ramachandra is so kind and merciful to his devotees that he is very easily satisfied by a little service rendered by anyone, human or not. This is the special advantage of worshipping Lord Ramachandra. And there is the same advantage in worshipping Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Lord Krishna and Lord Ramachandra, in the manner of Kshatriyas, sometimes showed their mercy by killing asuras. But Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu awarded love of God without difficulty even to the asuras. All the incarnations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but especially Lord Ramachandra, Lord Krishna, and later Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, delivered many of the living entities present before them, indeed, almost all of them. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is therefore represented in the six-armed form of Sadbhuja Murthy, which is a combination of Lord Ramachandra, Lord Krishna, and Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The best purpose of human life can be fulfilled by worshipping the Sadbhuja Murti, the form of the Lord with six arms: two arms of Ramachandra, two arms of Krishna, and two arms of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Just a second. Okay, so so here is a Sadbhuji Murti form that Prabhupada is mentioning in the purport. So Hanuman is saying that Lord Ram is very easily satisfied. Even a small service offered by the devotee can satisfy Lord Ram. And when Lord Ram is satisfied, automatically the devotee is successful. And Hanuman, we know he is the best example of Lord's servant. And Hanuman's only meditation was, how can I serve Lord Ram? How can I please Lord Ram at every moment? So in Brihad Bhagavatamrita by Sanatan Goswami, um, there when Narad Muni goes to Prahlad Maharaj, he's saying, no, I'm not a best servant of the Lord. Hanuman is the best servant, and he's glorifying Hanuman. So there's some verses mentioned there about the glorification of Hanuman, and it's mentioned that Hanuman, he is always free from all fear. He's strictly celibate, and he's extremely intelligent. He is a skilled poet, thoroughly learned in all Vedic literature, and he gave excellent strategic advice during the battle with Ravana. And he also carried out medical services, treating Lord Ram's battlefield wounds. And he sang beautiful songs for the Lord's pleasure. And when Lord Ram was living in the forest, Hanuman would use his huge white tail to provide Lord with a white umbrella. a symbol of royalty. And the same tail would be used as a sunscreen canopy to give shade to the Lord from sun. And also the tail was used as a fan, and when Hanuman was serving as the Lord's vehicle, the tail was used as a flag. So we can see Hanuman is trying to use everything that he has, every skill that he has, for the pleasure of Lord Ram. Now, in this verse we read, Hanuman is reminding us that, however, Lord is pleased by even a small service. So I was remembering this pastime when the monkeys were making the bridge to Lanka. Hanuman, he was throwing huge mountain tops into the sea to build the bridge. And then he noticed a tiny squirrel who was brushing small particles of dust into the water with its legs to assist Lord Ram. So Hanuman, he was about to brush the squirrel out of the way of his serious work that he was doing. But then Lord Ram scolded him, saying, Hanuman, give up your pride. This squirrel's devotional service is just as satisfying to me as yours. You are serving me according to your capacity, and he is serving me according to his capacity. So, two lessons come from this pastime. The first is that whoever we are, we always have something to offer to the Lord, whether we are as powerful as Hanuman or as weak as the squirrel. We can serve Lord, and if we serve Lord to our fullest capacity, with all our heart and soul, it will be accepted by the Lord as a first class devotion. So we should try to do our best and use our full capacity in serving the Lord. And the second lesson is that when we strive to do our best for the Lord and progress in our service, we should never obstruct or belittle another's devotional service, no matter how small or insignificant it may seem to us. We should always encourage and appreciate others for whatever amount of service that they are able to do for the Lord, knowing that the Lord is pleased even with a small service. So, I want to continue our discussion from yesterday. There might be some repetition of some pastimes I covered last weekend, since I think most people were not there. So there would be some repetition. So we discussed yesterday that when Sita was kidnapped by Ravan, Ram, he formed an alliance with Sugriv, and Sugriv, he was leading the search mission to find Sita. So Sugriv, he organized the monkeys into four groups and sent each of them in one direction, north, south, east, and west. And the search parties, they were asked to return within a month, and was declared that latecomers would be punished. So among these four groups, the southbound group was most likely to locate Sita, because Ravana had been seen carrying Sita southwards. And this southbound group was composed of Hanuman, Angad, who is the son of Vali, and Jambavan. And Ram gave Hanuman his ring, that if he met Sita, Hanuman could give the ring to Sita, and that would assure um, Sita that Hanuman was a messenger from Ram, not a demon. And Hanuman, then he took Ram's blessings and he left for the search for Mother Sita. So this southbound group had been searching for Sita day and night without rest, and they were hungry and thirsty, but they were not finding any clues where Mother Sita was. So the monkeys, they felt totally lost. So finally they came on the bank of the ocean at the southernmost tip, and they were now convinced that they cannot find Mother Sita, and they decided to end their lives by doing fasting until death. So when they sat down to commit suicide, nearby there was a giant vulture uh, called Sampati. He was watching them, and he said, wow, after a long time, I now have a big feast in front of me. There's so many monkeys sitting. I'll eat each one of them. So this Sampati, he had no wings and he was a giant vulture. So this Sampati, he was waiting for these monkeys to die. But suddenly the Hanuman and Angad, they said that now that we are about to die, let us remember Lord Ram. And so they started singing Ram's glories. So This is a very important pastime. Here it reveals how hearing and chanting is very powerful. So Angad, he started recounting Lord Ram's pastimes, and they were all chanting, waiting to leave their bodies, and they came to a section of Ramayana where they spoke about how Jatayu laid his life down for Lord Ram. So when this giant vulture Sampati he heard Jatayu's name, he roared. Looking at Angad, he said, "Oh monkey Vanara, tell me, how do you know Jatayu? Tell me more about him. How did he die?" So then Angad he explains to Sampati about Jatayu, and then Sampati said, "Jatayu is my younger brother. When we were young, both of us flew very arrogantly to explore the entire universe, and I and Jatayu flew up to the sun, and when we entered the sun's orbit, it became so hot that our wings started burning. And Jatayu was exhausted, so I protected Jatayu. I covered him with my wings. But in this process, my wings got burnt, and we both fell. And when we fell to the earth, we got separated. I lost my wings forever, and I have lost Jatayu since then. Now that you are mentioning Jatayu's name, and that he has given his life in the service of Lord Ram, I feel great sadness that I lost my dear brother. But I feel very proud that he has given his life for Lord Ram." So then Sampati explained something very interesting. He said, "When I fell down from the skies, I lost my wings. I thought now my life is useless. I wanted to commit suicide. I wanted to end my life. So I went to a rishi called Chandrama Rishi. And this rishi told me, 'Don't end your life. There is a reason why your wings are gone. You have to stay now here. You cannot fly anywhere. You stay here, and one day you will get a chance to serve the Lord very personally.'" So Sampati is saying that I can see that now I have a chance to serve all of you. You're looking for Mother Sita? Although I cannot fly, but from this distance I still have very sharp eyes. I can see that at the southernmost tip of the ocean, I can see Lanka, and I can see Mother Sita in Lanka. So I advise you, monkeys, to go to Lanka, and there you will find what you're looking for. So Sampati he expressed his gratitude to the Vandaras that he has been waiting since the last 8,000 years, waiting for this opportunity to serve the Lord. And today his desire was fulfilled, that he was able to serve Lord Ram. So like Sampati, we have another example, that of Shibari. She also waited for thousands of years. So, not going into many details about Shibari, I'll be brief. Basically, Shibari's guru, Matang Rishi, while he was departing from the world, Shibari, she told uh, her guru that, "Please take me with you wherever you are going. I cannot live without you." So her guru told Shibari, "No, you stay in this ashram. One day Lord Ram is going to come to this ashram. I want you to stay here and welcome him." So at that time, Shibari was a young girl. So Shibari, every day, consistently, she used to clean her ashram, decorate it. She would go to the forest to collect the berries. She would then bite the berries, taste it, and put the sweet berries separately for Lord. So, like that, day after day, she consistently performed her service, thinking that my Lord will come today and I have to be ready to serve him. So, Shabri, she had full faith in the words of her Guru that Lord Ram will surely come. Now, thousands of years passed, and Shabri, she became very old. Then also, she never missed one day in preparing her ashram to welcome Lord Ram. Then one day, Lord Ram came with Lakshman, specially to meet his dear devotee Shabri, and Shabri offered her jute bear, already tasted berries, to Ram. But Lakshman stopped Ram. He said, "Bhaiya, these berries have been tasted. You cannot eat these." So Lord Ram, he took the berry and ate it and said to Lakshman, "My dear brother Lakshman, these berries are so very sweet. I have never tasted berries as sweet as these berries that Shabri has given me. When one offers something to me in love, I accept it with great joy." So after getting Lord Ram's blessings, Shabri, she left her body and went to the eternal abode of Lord Ram. So lesson for us is, We also need to consistently perform our sadhana like Shabri. Every day, get up early morning chant. Every day, decorate and worship deities. Offer them the best we can. Every day, read Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, knowing that one day we are going to meet the Lord face to face. And it could be today. So we have to be fully prepared. Sometimes we are chanting for 1 or 2 years and we are thinking, why am I not getting Krishna's reciprocation? And from Sampati's and Shabri's example, we can learn that patience will bear fruit. Both Sampati and Shabri waited for thousands of years and they had full faith in the words of their guru, and they got a chance to personally serve the Lord. I was also thinking that when we get the opportunity to serve Lord, that is Lord's mercy. Like Sampati and Shabri, we have probably waited millions of lifetimes to now been given the opportunity to serve the Lord, chant his holy name, glorify him. So we should be grateful and we should utilize all the opportunities that come to us where someone is asking us to serve by speaking Lord's glories, by cleaning the pots in the temple, distributing books. So many services are there. So we should not miss out on these opportunities. We should grab every opportunity, be greedy and eager to serve. Like a businessman who's eager to make more and more profits. A businessman, he makes profits when the market is down by selling the stocks, and he makes profit when market is up. He makes profit when the market is up. He makes profit by selling the stocks, and when the market is down, he makes profit by purchasing the stocks. So like that, he makes profit in every situations. In the same way, whatever situation we have, good or bad, materially, we should be eager to utilize every situation to accumulate more and more of spiritual credits. Devotees' business, Vyavasai, is to serve the Lord at every moment. So we should remember that how rare it is to get the opportunity to serve the Lord. So we should not miss out on it. Another thing we learn from the pastime of Sampati and the monkeys is the power of Hari Katha. The monkey soldiers, they were so distraught and they were so discouraged and sad that they sat down, not knowing how they will find Sita. They were contemplating on committing suicide. But then, when Hanuman and Angad they started speaking Ram Katha, all the monkeys they stopped their analysis, their thinking, their intelligence, and they simply engaged in hearing and chanting exclusively. When they engaged in hearing and chanting, they received help from another dimension, from another source, from another person. Similarly, we are trying to solve so many of our complicated life issues, and Ramayana is teaching us, wait, forget about those problems for the time being. Think about them later, some other time. Right now, spend time exclusively remembering, hearing, and chanting about the Lord. And like Sampati came to solve the monkey's problem, Lord will send someone or reveal within our heart the solution to our problems. As Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Tesham satata yuktanam bhajitam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upiyanti te. To those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. So, this is the power of hearing and chanting. So now, when the monkeys found out about the location of Mother Sita, everybody was sitting and discussing who is going to cross the ocean to go to Lanka and find Mother Sita. So everybody appointed Jambavan that he should go to get Sita. And Jambavan, he was an old bear, and he said, I can jump, but I don't have the strength to fight and find Mother Sita and come back. So it needs to be someone who can jump, fight, find, and return with good news. And that someone is Hanuman. Now, Hanuman, he was shocked to hear this because he didn't even know that he could fly at this point. As we know, when Hanuman he was a child, he had a lot of powers. and he was very playful and restless, and he would cause a lot of mischief, and he would disturb the sages who were performing yagnas. So Hanuman, he was cursed by a sage that he would forget all his powers until someone reminds him of his potential. So when he grew up, he didn't even realize how much potential he had. And now Jambavan, he is reminding Hanuman of his potential. So here it's teaching us an interesting leadership sutra. Who is a good leader? A good leader is like Jambavan. He understands that he has potential, but someone else has more potential, and that is Hanuman. So leader can be of two types. Leader can be like that sage who saw Hanuman's potential and cursed him to forget his powers. So there can be such leaders that who see that somebody is very qualified, and so they try to shut him down. Or the leader can be like Jambavan, saying that, oh, I cannot do it, but I see that you have the potential. You should do it. And but the person is not believing in himself, but Jambavan as a leader, he motivates and lifts the spirit of the person that I believe in you. You should do it. So leader is he who knows the way, who goes the way, and who shows the way. A true leader is like a salt who adds taste to others but himself remains invisible. So, like Jambavan in Ramayana, he was never prominent. He never became prominent. He is not the hero. But Jambavan, he is humble to understand that I am just a small servant in a long chain of servants helping to unite Ram and Sita. So, like that, if the leader understands that the goal is more important than who gets the credit, then there is success. So Hanuman, he believed in the empowerment given by Jambavan. Hanuman, he climbed up the mountain, and it is described that as he chanted the holy name of Lord Ram, he takes off like the arrow of Ram, like the infallible arrow of Ram, Ramban, which kills the person, does the needful, and retires. It never is defeated. Hanuman was like that Ramban. So now when Hanuman he jumped, he is in the midair and he's thinking, now I've already jumped. What if I run out of fuel? What if I get tired? What if I fall down into the ocean? So then Hanuman, he comforts himself by thinking, oh, I don't have to worry. After all, my father is Vayudev, the wind god. So I have my father to support me. But then he chastises himself and he thinks that when I have the holy name of Lord Ram and a guru like Jambavan, still I'm looking for comfort from my father. So this is a lesson for a devotee that if a devotee has to perform some service, he has to depend more on his guru and the empowerment from the holy name of the Lord. So instead of thinking that if plan A fails, I have plan B, and if that fails, I have plan C, I have all my contacts. My father is Vayudev. I have eaten Suryadev. I am very powerful. Now I can do what I want. No, a devotee is not like that. He is totally dependent on Guru and the holy name. So now, when the devotee they perform bhakti and are engaged in service, there is one thing for sure: tests or obstacles will come. And we have to successfully pass these obstacles, which are basically anarthas in us, to make spiritual advancement. So Hanuman, he had to face 8 obstacles on his quest to find Sita and give her the message of Lord Ram. In my previous classes, we talked about the 3 obstacles: complacency, competitive nature, and envy. The So I want to ask whether I should repeat these 3 obstacles. Um, if devotees they have heard this before, or should I repeat it? So Prabhuji, I would like to know whether I should be repeating the first 3 obstacles.
You can repeat this, okay? It's always good to hear again.
Okay, Prabhuji. So I want to read this article, just a paragraph, not the entire thing we read last time, the entire, but I would Can someone read this one section? Let reflections reinforce action. This is
I can
article
read.
by yes, Mataji. This is article by Chaitanya Charan Prabhu, and this is also from his book Wisdom from Ramayana. So yes, Mataji, you can read.
When Hanuman left off the Indian coastline, he fixed his mind on Ram. He remembered Ram's grief stricken yet hope filled words during their last meeting. When Ram had given him a signet ring to give to Sita, Ram had not given any such token to anyone else in any of the search parties sent in the four directions to search for Sita. Ram's handling that ring to Hanuman reflected his confidence that Hanuman would find Sita. Remembering Ram's confidence in him, Hanuman felt increasingly energized to reach Lanka as fast as possible. The wind god, the celestial father of Hanuman, wanted to aid his son, who was performing an extraordinary service to their lord. Accordingly, the wind blew powerfully behind Hanuman, helping him move faster. As Hanuman flew, the sight of the vast ocean stretching out in all directions below him reminded him of the potency of Ram's name. The sacred scriptures declare that by chanting the Lord's name, one can cross the entire ocean of material existence. What then would be the difficulty in crossing one ocean within that material existence? Seeing shows of aquatics moving about in the ocean, Hanuman thought of how the other Vanaras, celestial monkeys in his party, were praying for his success, and not just praying, but also performing austerities. When he was preparing to take off for Lanka, they told him that till he returned, they all would perform yogic meditation. They would stand on one foot, praying that the merits of their austerity assist Hanuman in his mission. As he remembered those for whom he was working and those with whom he was working, his inspiration increased and his determination deepened. With his reflection thus energizing his action, Hanuman speed up the sky towards destination Lanka. Whenever we do anything that challenges us in our spiritual life, we need to ensure that our thoughts supports us, not sabotage us. If we carefully contemplate the things that inspire us, not the things that dishearten us, our contemplation can work in tandem with our actions.
Thank you, Mataji. So when we do any kind of service, we should constantly remind ourselves why are we doing it and for whom we are doing it. We are doing it for Krishna's pleasure, and we should contemplate on the gifts and the opportunities Krishna has given us, like the association of devotees and guru and sadhu and shastras, so that will make us positive and determined in doing our service. And we should also remember uh, that so much sacrifices that others have done for us to give us knowledge and the path of bhakti. Like Prabhupada, he sacrificed so much to give us Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, all these books, and he was doing translations in the middle of the night. He sacrificed so much to give us temples. So if we remember the sacrifices the great souls have done to give us this path of bhakti, then that will make us determined and positive in our approach. So then Hanuman, he flew through the ocean and he got his first obstacle. There was a mountain called Menika who rose in front of Hanuman. This Menika mountain, it told Hanuman that he was a friend of Dashrath, Ram's father, and he said he wants to serve Ram by serving Ram's servant, Hanuman. So he asked Hanuman to rest for some time on the mountain and enjoy all the luxuries and then continue on his journey. So then what did Hanuman do? Hanumanji, he folded his palms and he respectfully touched the mountain, thanked Menika, but he declined to accept this offer. And Hanuman said, please bless me. I cannot afford to relax right now. I'm on a very important mission. I have to find Mother Sita. So Hanuman, he did not allow any distraction to come on his way, in his way, and he continued to fly. So one devotee I was hearing was saying that he said many times we come to Krishna consciousness, and as years pass, we are respected as advanced devotees. We get so many facilities, we get so many opportunities. You give some lecture, you say some shlokas, and people will respect you and will give you a lot of facilities. And these facilities and position and respect, this can distract us from our service. So Hanuman, he's teaching us, don't get complacent. Don't get distracted from your service, because this is one of the biggest obstacles in bhakti, complacency. And we talked yesterday about Sugriev's pastime about complacency, when he was given a lot of comforts and he forgot his promise that he had made for Lord Ram. So when we are given comforts, respects, position, and honor, they can easily bewilder the minds of the best of the people.
Good
And
morning,
it is
Kesha.
okay, and it is easy. Um, sorry, I lost. So yeah, so when so we have to be careful of not being complacent in bhakti. So like Hanuman, we should respect the sentiments of people, their mood of love. We accept that mood, but we don't accept the facilities or take seriously the appreciation or position they give us, and we continue to serve the Lord. So that was the first obstacle Hanuman passed, complacency, Menika Mountain. So now when Hanuman he flew further, he got his second obstacle. So Hanuman he came across a gigantic creature who identified herself as the demoness Surasa. Actually, she was a goddess. She was the mother of Nagas, the celestial serpents, and the daughter of Daksha. She was actually sent by the demigods to test Hanuman, specifically his bala, his strength, and buddhi, intelligence. And these two resources Hanuman needed in abundance if he were to succeed in Lanka. So the demigods wanted to test him. So Surasa told Hanuman that she was going to devour him, and that Hanuman had no chance to escape because she had been blessed by Brahma that any creature going through that area would have to enter her mouth. So Hanuman requested her to let him go and deliver Ram's message to Sita, assuring her that during his return journey he would enter her mouth. But when she remained unrelenting, Hanuman he told her that he would enter her mouth if she could make her mouth big enough to accommodate him. So saying this, Hanuman he expanded his size. And when the demoness saw, she also made her mouth bigger and bigger than Hanuman's size. And Hanuman he further made his body bigger. And then Surasa she made herself bigger than Hanuman. So like that, um, Hanuman, he was competing with her, and he was trying to increase his size and she was trying to increase her size. And when Hanuman noticed that this competition was actually wasting his time, Hanuman, what he did, he became the size of a mosquito. And then he went up to Surasa's throat inside her mouth and immediately came out. He then told Surasa, Mother, I have fulfilled your desire and fulfilled Brahmaji's benediction also. I entered your mouth. So then Surasa, she started laughing and she said, Oh, you clever monkey, you're not only very humble, you're also very intelligent. I'm proud of you. You're definitely going to succeed in your mission. So let's see the inner meaning of this small pastime. I want to read what Chaitanya Charan Prabhu mentions. Few paragraphs. Would someone want to read?
I can read.
Sure.
Here Hanuman intelligently chose his battles. As a warrior who loved a good fight, he could have seen Surasa's challenge as a spur to fight. But he expertly put first things first. Instead of getting into a needless and possibly endless confrontation, he took the humble position by decreasing his size and moved on with his mission. For Hanuman, proving his own greatness was not as important as carrying out his mission. We too need to be similarly intelligent in choosing our battles amidst conflicts that may arise. As we pursue our goal of pure devotion to the Lord, we need to discern which issues to hold on to and which to let go. Many things may be wrong around us, And we may feel that we need to set them all right, but we are finite beings with finite time and energy and resources. If we try to fight every single battle that comes our way, we'll keep fighting endlessly, drain ourselves completely, not even those things we could have done, not do even those things which we could have done, and most important, waste time, valuable time that could be used in nourishing our devotion. In our interactions with our loved ones, for example, we may find ourselves getting into a heated argument on an issue that is not particularly important. At such time, instead of getting sucked into the confrontation, we need to mentally take a step back and get our priorities straight. Our relationships should aid us in our spiritual life, and thus they are more than some temporary issue. Our love for our family, friends, and associates during our life spiritual journey should free us from the need to be right in every argument. Knowing that the battle of egos can be endless, we can take the humble position. Humility doesn't mean letting ourselves be trampled by others, it simply means that we don't let our ego come in the way of our purpose.
Thank you, Prabhuji. So, so Surisa, she represents the mentality to show off in public. So when you are not happy the way that you want to show the size that you are not. So so that you get some public appreciation. So like we wear masks to mask our original identity and show what we are not. So that was one way we can see Surisa, she was trying to expand herself, showing off. Also, as Chaitanya Charan Prabhu is mentioning what we read here, when we come to devotional service, sometimes we forget the mission, we forget the purpose, and with others, we start competing with other Vaishnavas. We start competing. Oh, you are doing so much. I will do more than you. I am right and you are wrong. Like that, we start getting attracted by petty wins. I want to win this argument. And we forget the Lord, we forget the mission of the Lord, and we get upset with somebody with over trivial matters, and we compete with others. So, and in this process, we are wasting time arguing with someone. So, the solution Hanuman is teaching us with this pastime is that instead of becoming big, bigger, biggest, we should become the smallest. In becoming small, humble in front of another Vaishnava, we are actually able to achieve the Lord's service. We are able to serve without impediments. So, this is the obstacle, the competitive nature that we need to overcome. So, that was the second obstacle. Now, the third obstacle that Hanuman faced. So, Hanuman, he was flying on. Then suddenly he found himself paralyzed. He couldn't move forward. He looked down and he saw a hideous demon called Simika looking at him and licking her lips. So he understood that she had used her mystic powers to catch onto his shadow, thereby arresting his progress. So as Hanuman, he was considering what to do, he found himself being pulled down towards Simika's mouth, and her plan was to chew Hanuman to kill him and feast on him. So now, what Hanuman did was, as he was being sucked in, Hanuman, he went inside the mouth of the demon. He went deep into her stomach and he started attacking it from within. Eventually, after ripping her apart, her stomach apart from inside, Hanuman he emerged unhurt and victorious. So as this demoness, she fell screaming to her death into the ocean. Hanuman he flew on towards his destination. So now, what does Simika represent in this pastime? Simika, it represents envious people who try to pull down the person out of envy. So just like Simika, she caught hold of Hanuman's shadow. The envious, they catch hold of incidental or insignificant faults in others. So this shadow in this pasture represents our faults and flaws, and Simika mentality represents those who, instead of appreciating, so here is a person, he's trying to serve the Supreme Lord, they're busy holding on to person's faults out of envy and pull him down. So Chaitanya Charan Prabhu, he explains in that article He explains that those who envy devotees are themselves automatically destroyed, that their envy becomes the cause of their own destruction. So in this case, like how Simika was destroyed, envious people will get destroyed. And we have several such examples, like Durvasa Muni becoming envious of Ambarish Maharaj, or Kauravas envious of Pandavas, ultimately leads to their destruction. So we see in this case, Simika was destroyed and Hanuman ripped her apart. Now, this does not mean that we should destroy the envious person like Hanuman destroyed Simika. So, to understand that, our acharyas explain that Simika exists within us, our own envious nature. That is Simika. And Hanuman is teaching us that in our devotional service, in the services we do, we have to compromise many of our weaknesses, like shortcomings and anarthas that we have: lust, anger, greed, delusion, etc. But one thing that we should not compromise on is our envy. So in spiritual life, every principle can be dovetailed, like we have this verse: काम कृष्ण कर्मार्पणे, क्रोध भक्त द्वेषी जने, लोभ साधु संग हरि कथा, मोह इष्ट लब्ध बने, मद कृष्ण गुनागने, niyukta karibe yatha tatha. That if someone has lust, they can dovetail that in Krishna's service by having devotee kids. If someone has anger, they can dovetail that by becoming angry towards those who are inimical towards Lord and his devotees. And if someone is greedy, then they can dovetail that in Krishna's service by hearing more and more about the Lord. So like that, we can dovetail everything except for envy. So Simika is not someone outside of us. Simika is within us, and we are carrying envy in our hearts. And because of this, our progress is choked. And if we think that we are not making any advancement in bhakti, that's because of envy. So envy, it stops us from our journey towards the Lord. Therefore, we can't go ahead till we deal with simika, like envy in our hearts. And how to deal with simika? Not with negotiation or discussion or spending time with the mind. No. Envy has to be crushed. Envy has to be dealt immediately, like a weed. An expert gardener, it pulls the weed out of the garden. A sadhaka pulls out the weed of envy from his heart. It's painful, but one has to deal with it, like how Hanuman did. He killed Simika instantly. And we also read a verse recently in our daily calls that Narad Muni was saying that by stopping sense gratification, we can conquer envy. And also, when we are fully satisfied in bhakti, then we are not envious. So we should perform service to the Lord unconditionally and uninterruptedly. Savai pumsam paro dharma yatho bhakte radhokshaje ahetu ke pratihataye yayatma suprasidati. So performing bhakti unconditionally, uninterruptedly, that will completely satisfy ourselves. And then we can conquer envy. So then Hanuman, he flew on. He crossed the ocean and he reached Lanka. So there Hanuman, he took the shape of a small cat and he was exploring Lanka very stealthily. Then he came across the fourth obstacle, Lankini. So Lankini was the chief security officer of Lanka, and she stopped Hanuman. She asked, "Who are you, and how dare you enter Ravana's Lanka without my permission?" So she challenged Hanuman. Now there was no point in hiding his true form, so Hanuman, he got into his normal form, and then Lankini gave Hanuman a tight slap on his face. So outraged at being attacked like this, Hanuman, he roared and he clenched his fist and he gave a forceful punch on Lankini's face. So Lankini, she fell back some distance. Then she got up and she had tears in her eyes and her mood totally changed. She folded her hands and came to Hanuman and said, "Long back, Lord Brahma had told me." Let me mute. So she told Hanuman, "Long back, Brahma had told me that a day a monkey punches me, it would mark the beginning of the end of Lanka. Now I'm sure Ravana will soon be history. I bless you, Hanuman. You may achieve success in your mission. Lord Ram shall be victorious. So, what do we learn from this obstacle? Now, Hanuman, till this time, he was very cautious. He was careful, he was quiet, he was humble. Generally, when we are cautious in our service, we don't want to create any disturbance. And in that caution, sometimes we become apologetic. We lose our confidence, and losing confidence is called diffidence. But Hanuman was not diffident. To answer Lankini's question, who are you and why are you here? He could have given so many excuses. He could have been diplomatic. Hanuman, he wanted to enter Lanka stealthily, but when Lankini saw him, he understood that this is not the time for beating around the bush, using word jugglery, speaking something mumbo jumbo. No, he confronted her directly. So Hanuman exhibited supreme confidence. So, lesson for us that when we are doing our services, sometimes we have to be assertive. Now, I'm not saying that we need to slap someone like Hanuman did to Lankini. No. But be confident. Sometimes you have to assess the situation and when to be quiet, when to be humble, and when you are facing an enemy to be assertive. So, in our services, we have to balance the sensitivity consideration with courage also to explain our stand, our side of the things, the way that we are seeing situations. So we should be confident. Okay, so that was the fourth obstacle. Now, the fifth obstacle, which is self doubt and guilt. We'll read a chapter from this book, Chronicles of Hanuman by Shubh Vilas Prabhu. And these are small chapters. Would someone like to read?
Okay, I can read. Okay, so is this Sita? A stroll through Lanka had been nothing less than a stroll through the heavens. Every corner of the land was exquisite. The palaces were simmering with golden bricks, used abundantly, studded with gems of various colors and types. Landscaped gardens were strewn across the city, adding charm to the magnificent architecture. Music added flavor to the different varieties of entertainment, theme parks that dotted the city. The most beautiful building of all was Ravana's residential palace that was carved out of pure gold. Paradise would be an understatement to capture the essence of what the palace represented in one word. With the hope of finding Mother Sita, Hanuman, assuming a tiny form, cautiously moved around the inner chambers of Ravana's palace. He was surprised to see the number of women that were strolling around the inner bedroom chambers of Ravana in a drunken state. Most of them were scantily clothed. When he peeped into the innermost section of the gigantic chamber, he gasped. There, on an enormous bed, was lying Dashanan, the majestic king of Lanka. That's another name from Ravana. The first look at Ravana brought out mixed emotions in Hanuman's heart. He was awestruck at Ravana's grandeur. Blessed with extremely handsome looks, a perfectly chiseled body, complemented with an enviable intelligence, Ravana deserved appreciation. But all that Hanuman could feel for him was disgust at his lack of virtues. Leaving Ravana aside, Hanuman began to gaze around, trying to spot Mother Sita. Suddenly, his eyes fell on a woman who was lying on Ravana's splendid bed. Looking at her beauty, Hanuman felt this must be Mother Sita. Her features resembled the description Lord Ram shared with him. He felt overjoyed for having accomplished his mission. But then something didn't seem right. How could Mother Sita be on Ravana's bed? He began to analyze, to ascertain the truth. He saw her mumbling something in her sleep. When he heard carefully, he could hear her speaking of a lot of inauspicious things. This couldn't be Mother Sita. The only words that could possibly come out of Mother Sita's mouth were the names of Lord Ram and the auspicious glorification of the Lord's qualities. Moreover, Mother Sita would never be able to eat or sleep peacefully without Lord Ram's presence in her life. Why would she decorate herself for another male? Thought Hanuman. This definitely couldn't be Mother Sita. Then he saw two things that reconfirmed his suspicion. There was no auspicious Padma line, a special mark on the sole of her feet, and there was no marking of a lotus flower on her toe. These were supposed to be the emblems on the body of the goddess of fortune, Mother Sita. Further, Hanuman also noted that the vermilion from her forehead had been rubbed off, indicating her husband wouldn't live for long. This couldn't be Mother Sita, but had to be Mandodari, the chief queen of Ravana. Concluding thus, he began to observe the other thousands of women who lay in Ravana's harem. Suddenly, an uncomfortable thought struck him. What was he doing staring at semi nude women in someone else's bedroom? Wasn't he supposed to be a celibate who was able to abstain from even looking at women? Hanuman reflected on the purpose of his visit. The motive determines whether an act is virtuous or sinful. If he had to find Mother Sita, he had to look around carefully. For the success of any mission, there has to be some austerity practiced. In his mission, looking at women was the austerity he had to tolerate. As long as he was not looking at them with the desire of enjoying them, he wasn't violating any principle. Once this was clear in his mind, Hanuman continued his search. Soon he realized that none of them were Mother Sita. Mother Sita was as powerful as fire and couldn't be kept subdued for long. Ravana had to keep her far away from his valuable possessions. The question was where? Determination is born out of desperation. Resignation is born out of complacency.
Thank you, Prabhuji. So we see here that trying to find Mother Sita, Hanuman, he was seeing these naked women very closely in Ravana's palace. So a doubt emerged in his mind that he was thinking, what am I doing? I am breaking a very important rule of my ashram. So he started feeling guilty. But after some time he gathered himself. He said, I am here on a mission. This is my service to Lord Ram. This is to please Lord Ram. So the more he connected to the purpose, not only he felt more purer in his action, he also saw his doubts disappear. So sometimes in our services, we land up in a situation where we have to do some activities which may not be the best thing to do. Sometimes in emergencies, we have to do the needful. Srila Prabhupada said to do the needful. Sometimes you have to deal with intense management, although you may not have the nature of management. Sometimes you have to chastise someone. You may have to take some tough decisions, do services which are against your nature, outside of your comfort zone, or which are not your core strength. So we may not be happy doing it, but we need to do the needful. We might be in an uncomfortable situation, and that can lead to self doubt and guilt, and that can actually throttle our services. So Hanuman, he's teaching us how to pass this obstacle. So what did Hanuman do? He connected, asking, why am I doing this? So we need to ask this question to us as well. Why am I doing this? So Hanuman, he asked the question, he got the answer. He's there because he wants to serve Lord Ram, and he overcame his guilt and doubt, and he felt purer, although he was with the woman. So, so then let's see the next obstacle, the sixth obstacle that he crossed was worry. So I'll read this. The dead end. Every corner of Lanka had been explored. Every palace had been checked. Every street had been scanned. Every secret hideout had been investigated. Still, there was no sign of the divine lady. Hanuman was at his wits' end. He had no idea where Mother Sita was and had no clue how to proceed. Worry began to overpower his calm mind. He began to consider the most extreme possibilities. Could Ravana have devoured her, knowing she wouldn't submit to him? Could she have fallen into the ocean in transit? Could it be that she gave up her life after months of separation from Lord Ram? Hanuman felt dispirited. He shrank into a dark corner of Lanka. Horrible images of the consequences of his failure began to flash on the screen of his disturbed mind. Thousands of monkeys were waiting his successful return. The first trace of news of his failure in Lanka would lead to their tragic death. The fatal end of his army would cause Sugriv to give up his life, knowing that he had failed to keep his promise to Lord Ram. Upon Sugriv's death, Lord Ram would not be able to live after losing all hope of finding Sita. With Lord Ram's demise, Lakshmana would not survive a minute longer. Ayodhya would turn into a crematorium. Imagining mass annihilation as an outcome of his failure, Hanuman felt there was no point in pulling on the agony. A despondent Hanuman wanted to end his life. Seeing a dead end in every direction, Hanuman decided to take complete solace in Lord Ram's holy names. As he began chanting Lord Ram's names fervently, something interesting happened. Chandra, the moon, till then hidden behind a set of clouds, peeped out. It seemed as if Chandra was interested in knowing who was chanting the names of Lord Ram. Chandra's rays revealed something that excited Hanuman. Down below was a valley that was completely hidden from the world. Though he had searched all of Lanka, he had completely missed this spot. As he glanced in that direction, he realized this was the most beautiful area in Lanka. This had to be the place where Ravana had held Mother Sita captive. He ran in that direction with great enthusiasm and newly found hope. As he ran, a realization dawned in his mind. A dead end actually ends the illusion that you are in control of your goal and forces you to take shelter in higher powers that shine brilliantly and are eager to give you a definite direction. Prayer is a torchlight that shows you hidden possibilities in the dark environment of your despondent mind. So we see that Hanuman, he saw nowhere Sita is found, and at one point he got lost. He started contemplating that if I go back with no information of Mother Sita, the other monkeys, they all will die, and seeing them dead, Sugriv will give up his life. And having no hope left, Ram will end his life. And seeing him dead, Lakshmana will die. And seeing Ram and Lakshman dead, all Ayodhya Vasis will die. And he was thinking, all their deaths will be caused because of me. I am responsible. So here is the obstacle of worry, how negative thinking of past or of future affects us. So in our services, sometimes it becomes overwhelming. Instead of remembering the Lord and taking shelter of the Lord in the holy name and understanding that it's beyond our control, we enter the space of worry. Worry and negative thinking is like a quicksand. It will suck you inside. And Hanuman here, he has come so near, he's on the verge of discovering Sita, but worry was stopping him. So, like Hanuman, sometimes we start imagining so many things. This could happen, that could happen if I don't do this, or this doesn't. So, this is called panic. And Hanumanji, he's on the verge of panic. But Hanumanji, he gathered himself, he took shelter in the holy name of the Lord, and he surrendered to the will of the Lord. And then we saw that Lord showed him the way. Okay, so that was the sixth obstacle, worry. And now we have the seventh obstacle, impulsive behavior. Mother Sita found. Would someone like to read this chapter?
I can read. since nobody else is. Okay. Mother Sita found. Today he realized the meaning of gold covered dust. Under the Ashoka tree shone a brilliant streak of golden light covered by forest dust. Quickly recollecting the description given to him by Lord Ram, he deciphered that this had to be Mother Sita, that millions of monkeys were searching for across the globe. Draped in a single cloth, her body her body appeared emaciated with months of fasting, and her face had moistened with the rivers of tears running down her cheeks. This goddess was an epitome of virtue and chastity. Surrounding this innocent lady were hundreds of vicious looking, one eyed, and one eared demonesses. On counting closely, Hanuman realized there were 700 in total. This was an age old trick that demons adopted to break their tough captives into submission, surround them with ugly, fierce looking monsters, and constantly harass them with abusive words and threatening actions. The human mind naturally cannot handle so much negativity. Sita wasn't any ordinary human, obviously, and her determination had not faltered even a bit. But Hanuman realized that she was definitely on the verge of breaking down due to constant torture and abuse. Just then, a series of drum beats woke up everyone. Suddenly, Ashoka Vatika was bustling with action. Hanuman hid himself in the foliage of the tall tree he was seated on. Announcements were made, heralding the arrival of King of Lanka. Basking under the brilliant morning sun, Ravana walked in majestically, accompanied by an entourage carrying hundreds of golden plates covered with silken cloth. There was an air of enthusiasm and excitement around Ravana. He almost appeared like a smitten youth walking up to propose to the girl he had given his heart to. O Sita, please accept these exquisite gifts that I have procured for your pleasure. No one in this world will be able to offer you valuables like this. I have even got the finest cuisines to enliven your taste buds. I only request you to accept me as your master. Forget that aimless wanderer Ram. He has nothing to offer you anymore. You know very well that Ram won't even be able to find you, let alone rescue you. Submit to me and enjoy the pleasures of life. Don't let your precious youth go waste. Ravana was commanding and begging her at the same time. Suddenly Sita's face became taut. She was no more the vulnerable, soft lady who was on the verge of breaking down. Determination sparkled vividly on her face now. Hanuman was impressed with this instant change. Even from a distance, he could clearly make out the contours of her face changing from helplessness to disgust. She shouted at Ravana in a manner that seemingly shocked the meek, loyal servants of the emperor. These petty gifts cannot impress me, O Ravana. Being conquered by Lord Ram's personality, I cannot be tempted with anything else in this world. Like sunlight is inseparable from the sun, Mother Sita is inseparable from Lord Ram. Despite so many months of constant torment that you have subjected me to, I still give you a chance. Return me to Lord Ram now, and I will ensure that you are not burnt by his wrath. If you want to save yourself and your illusory realm, this is the only chance. Ravana was furious with Sita's attitude. She hadn't budged an inch, even after months of being in captivity. In sheer frustration, with the back of his hands, he hit two golden plates that contained the costly gifts he had got for her. The pandemonium created by the fall of golden plates and their contents echoed in the valley of Ashokvatika. Hanuman could see that Ravana's associates were trembling and their legs were quivering. Sita was composed as ever. In fact, there was renewed strength in her resolve. She stared at him challengingly. By this time, he had clenched his fist and was advancing towards her menacingly. Just in time, Mandodari rushed forward and stalled him by telling him that hitting a woman would show him in poor light in front of his subjects. Ravana, finding merit in her statement, stepped back, but warned Sita with heavy words. He said he would wait for a month more, and if she didn't submit to his will, he would chop her up and eat her for breakfast. With Ravana's exit, Ashok Vatika buzzed with whispers. The demonesses were whispering animatedly amongst themselves in small groups while looking at Sita in disgust. Sita shrank into her shell again. Gone was the strong persona that she had portrayed a few moments back. Hanuman realized that he had to approach her soon. There were two problems in doing that. One was the demonesses guarding her wouldn't allow that to happen. The second one was more critical. Mother Sita wouldn't recognize him if he landed him in front of her. She wouldn't even conclude that he was a henchman. She would even conclude that he was a henchman of Ravana in disguise. She could ignore him or worse, scream in panic, driving the guards of Ashoka Vatika into action. He decided to wait patiently for the right opportunity. As the sun set that day, Hanuman stealthily approached the tree under which Sita was seated. Being careful not to catch the attention of the guards or the demonesses, Hanuman managed to reach his destination and began to consider his strategy. By this time, the entire Ashoka Vatika had come to a standstill, and every member around that area was fast asleep. A few guards were pacing back and forth, patrolling the garden entrances. Just then, some movement below caught his attention. When Hanuman glanced below, he was shocked to see what Sita was doing. She had tied her long hair to a tree branch and was looping it around her neck in an attempt to end her life. He began to panic considering her predicament. He didn't wait to act in haste. He didn't want to act in haste. That could push Sita to give up immediately and strangulate herself. Neither did he want to do something drastic that would make her scream in surprise and alert everyone. As he silently prayed for wisdom, he had a brilliant idea on how to handle the situation. In a quiet but clearly audible voice, he began to narrate the story of Lord Ram. In a poetic manner, he sang the story of Lord Ram right from his birth, banishment, exile in the forest to Sita's abduction. He described Lord Ram's effort to find Sita and how Hanuman was now here with the message of her beloved. As soon as the narration began, Hanuman could see Sita slowly relaxing. By the time he ended, she had taken off the noose and was seated on the floor, below the tree, crying tears of joy. He now leaped and landed right in front of her, assuming a miniature form. Introducing himself as Lord Ram's servant, he inquired about her welfare. Sita connected with the voice of Hanuman. When he landed in front of her, his appearance hadn't mattered or didn't matter. All that mattered was that he was a well wisher and a follower of Lord Ram. She became peaceful and was completely at ease in front of a total stranger. Understanding well this person's intimate connection with Lord Ram. But to be sure he was an emissary of Lord Ram, she decided to test Hanuman by asking him to describe Lord Ram's appearance in detail.
Prabhuji, I can read if you're tired. There's
I'm not,
only.
not tired, I can continue.
Sure.
With great joy, Hanuman began. Lord Ram's beauty is inexplicable. He has a beautiful greenish golden complexion, and his eyes resemble lotus petals. He has broad shoulders, mighty arms, and a deep voice. He is reddish in four places: his eyes, his nails and palms, and the sole of his feet. He walks in four different gaits, akin to a lion, a tiger, an elephant, and a bull. He has eight elongated, shapely body parts: arms, fingers, toes, eyes, ears, nose, backbone, and trunk. 10 appendages on Lord Ram's body represent a lotus: his skin, mouth, eyes, tongue, lips, palate, chest, nails, hands, and feet. Realizing that Mother Sita needed substantial proof to trust anyone in the magical, illusory kingdom of Lanka, Hanuman produced the signet ring that Lord Ram had given him. Holding the ring carefully between his palms, he extended his hand towards Mother Sita. Glancing at the ring brought a flood of tears in her eyes. Picking up the ring, he had touched the delicate fingers of Lord Ram for so long. Sita became overwhelmed. Now, more than any other time in the last few months, she felt intense separation from her beloved. Lord Ram was so close to her now, yet so far. Sita kept glancing at the ring with love, crying and smiling at the same time. Occasionally, she would look at Hanuman with eyes filled with gratitude for this service. If Hanuman had to place the ring in her hands, it would subtly indicate that he is superior to her. But by allowing her to pick up the ring from his palms, he clearly indicated that he is inferior to her. Subtleness in behavior is indicative of the depth of sensitivity. Hanuman instantly decided that he would end the misery of Mother Sita by taking her along with him to Lord Ram's shelter. He said, "My dear mother, kindly come with me. Sit on my back, and I will take you to Lord Ram immediately. All your miseries will end in a few minutes." The words of Hanuman took Sita by surprise. Seeing her reaction, Hanuman understood the confusion in her mind. How could a tiny sized monkey claim to carry her? Expanding himself into a giant size, he kneeled down with folded hands. Sita's jaw dropped when she saw the tiny monkey had become much bigger than the tree she was sitting under. In the next instant, he again shrunk himself, resumed his normal size, and stood in front of her, awaiting her decision. She made many excuses why she couldn't come along with him, and he countered each one of them. Finally, she explained the real reason for her refusal, and that impressed Hanuman. She explained that if she had to travel with him, the world would feel that her husband was incapable of saving her. A demon brought her to Lanka, and a monkey brought her back. People would naturally ask, what role did the husband play in her rescue? Realizing that Mother Sita wanted the glory of her rescue to go to her husband, Lord Ram, Hanuman decided to not pursue this matter. Then Sita asked Hanuman the question that had been nagging her for the last few months. How was Ram? How was faring without her? Hanuman understood Mother Sita's purpose of asking this question. He said the beauty of Lord Ram, that is true, but that was all before. From the time you have gone missing from his life, he has become emaciated due to his separation from you. His body has grown so that the signet ring I just gave you would fit his wrist like a bracelet. Sita felt united with Lord Ram in their shared pain of separation. Interestingly, both Hanuman and Sita had evaluated each other before accepting the other as genuine. Though both were in a state of desperation, they did not take the risk of blindly believing the other. While the greatest blunders are made while celebrating proximity to success.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, is my voice breaking?
Not for me.
Okay. All right. So couple
No, no.
points. Hari- yes, Mataji?
Your voice is not breaking, Mataji.
Okay. Thank you, Mataji. So couple points I heard in some lectures about what we read. So we see in Ashok Vatika, Ravana, he was lustily staring at Mother Sita. And one devotee was saying, now we need to evaluate how do we chant Hare Krishna. We could be chanting Hare Krishna like Ravana, or we could be chanting Hare Krishna like Hanuman. So chanting like Ravana means when we have an intense desire to enjoy sense gratification. like Ravana. Then just like Ravana was not actually seeing real Mother Sita, so this was Maya Sita that he was seeing. In the same way, when we have desires to enjoy separately from the Lord, we are accessing the reflection of the holy name. It's not the real holy name. And Hanuman's desire was to unite Ram and Sita. So devotees chant Hare Krishna like Hanuman to please Radha and Krishna, to please Ram and Sita, to bring them together. So that was just one thing that I heard. And so another point is that we see that in this past time we read Ravana, he's trying to impress Mother Sita, trying different techniques to persuade her to accept his proposal. He said he will make her the principal queen, she will enjoy so many things. But Sita, she didn't even look at Ravana. She was constantly remembering Lord Ram in her heart. And the more Sita was resisting and denying Ravana, Ravana's lust was increasing, and he became more desperate to possess her. And with great intensity, Ravana said, "Oh Sita, you're so beautiful, you're not realizing how time is passing, that your youth is fading away and will soon fade away. Now is the time to enjoy. Don't let time fade away your youth. I have unmatched power, unmatched vitality." So again, Sita, she completely ignored him. And Ravana knew that he cannot forcibly enjoy Sita. And we were discussing yesterday that Ravana, he got a curse by Nal Kovera. One time Ravana, he seduced Apsara Rambha, uh, and who was engaged with Nalkovera. So Nalkovera, he cursed Ravana that if he seduces a woman without her consent, his head will be blown in 100 pieces. So like that, Ravana, he knew he will die instantly if he forced himself upon a woman. But Ravana, he was so charming, he was so attractive that all women to whom he proposed, they just couldn't resist him. That was his charming power. That's why we saw, we heard, we read that in his palace there were so many women. But Mother Sita, she exemplifies how a devotee is, how a sadhaka is. A devotee is truly, totally attached to his Lord. Ravana represents all sense gratification, all different distractions and temptations are like Ravana, and devotee is like Sita, saying no, no to all of these proposals. And devotee's mind is totally focused on the Lord. So this Ravana is residing in our heart. And Ram Navami is the day when we pray to Lord Ram that please, my Lord, I am like Sita, trapped in this Ashok Vatika of the material world. Please come and destroy this Ravana in my heart and let me unite with you. So this is the prayer of a devotee. So now let's talk about the seventh obstacle that Hanuman had to overcome, which what we read, the obstacle of impulsive behavior. So we read that all the Rakshasis, they were tormenting Mother Sita, and Hanumanji, he was sitting on the top of the tree and he was watching all of this. And these Rakshasis, they were shouting at Sita. Some of them were saying, I'll eat your flesh. And some were saying, I'll break your body with my spear. Everybody was threatening her, abusing her, and talking very harsh language. And when Hanuman heard this, he became so angry. He wanted to jump down and beat up all these Rakshasis. And he was so overwhelmed by that. So, but then he stopped himself. So the obstacle here is impulsive. The obstacle here is being impulsive or myopic. Myopic means short-sightedness. When we do what we feel good right now, what my gut says right now, and we ignore the long-term vision. So here in this situation, Hanuman was right at being angry when he saw Mother Sita being harassed by the Rakshasis. So his desire to beat them was correct, but he stopped himself because he realized if I come down now and beat up these Rakshasis, I have not even met Mother Sita. Uh, And if I come down and create this big scene, Mother Sita is already sad. But after this incident, will she trust me? She may even get more panicky. An alarm will be raised and a lot of confusion created. So Hanumanji used his discretion, his intelligence. So we should remember that every action in this world, it comes with a price. Every action has a consequence. Although it was very painful for Hanuman to see his worshipable Mother Sita being harassed by these Rakshasis, he knew a right time will come. So this is a good example of somebody who has overcome the obstacle of impulsive behavior. We have to have patience. If Hanuman would have attacked the Rakshasis, there would be a big drama, more panic. Eventually, he did that after he met Mother Sita. But before meeting Mother Sita, if he would have done that, then he would not have he would not be able to convey the message of Lord Ram to Sita in the way that he wanted to. So sometimes in our services, we act impulsively. We get excited and we do something silly because of our pride or overconfidence. But Hanuman, he controlled himself. So Hanuman is very intelligent. He has bhakti, yukti, and shakti. Bhakti is devotion, yukti is intelligence, and shakti is empowerment. So when somebody performs bhakti, they become empowered, and Krishna gives them intelligence how to act. So Valmiki Muni, he also explains why Hanuman jumped onto the tree and began singing the glories of Ram. Why didn't he appear in front of Mother Sita? So answer is given. Mother Sita, she had already been cheated once through the eye. She saw Ravana and she thought he was a sadhu and she got cheated. So from then, Mother Sita has got burnt by the sense of vision. Now, if Hanuman jumps in front of Mother Sita, it is possible Mother Sita thinks that this is another demon appearing like a messenger. But one aspect of her personality that had not cheated her yet is the hearing. So Hanuman jumps onto the tree and sings Ram Katha. So we heard Sita ask him to describe the beauty of Lord Ram. So that was the first connection he makes with Sita, is through Hari Katha, the chanting of the glories of Lord Ram. And in a class, Amrinder Prabhu, he was giving a very nice comparison, very nice analogy of Hanuman giving the ring to Mother Sita. So he was saying that Mother Sita represents a conditioned soul in this world, like all of us. We are with Sri Ram, but when we get attracted to a golden deer in this world, what happens? What happened to Mother Sita? She got so attracted to the deer that she was ready to be separated from Lord Ram to get that golden deer. She also knew that no deer can be golden. There is something fishy going on, but still she was so attracted. Mother Sita, she wanted to chase the golden deer. That shows the story of a conditioned soul who chases after shiny material things in this world. It looks like gold when you're chasing it, but you yourself know that it's not gold. But still, you want that happiness of possessing that golden material thing. So, when we chase behind material things in this universe, the first thing that happens is we are separated from the Lord of our life, Lord Ram. So then, where is Mother Sita after Lord Ram leaves? She is with Lakshman, which means Lord leaves us when we run behind material objects, but who is there with us? Vaishnavas. But when we are so blind with sense gratification after Lord has left us, we come to the point of committing Vaishnava Prad. Mother Sita accused Lakshmana of evil intention. And doing Vaishnava Prad, even the Vaishnavas leave our association. So we saw Lakshmana left. Now, where are we after Lord and the Vaishnavas leave us? We are all alone in the forest of the material world, and in that situation, without the Lord, without the Vaishnavas, we don't have proper power of discrimination, and we get cheated. And Ravana comes and cheats us. The 10 heads of Ravana represents the 10 senses. They carry us away to the forest of Ashok Vatika, the forest of distress. Interestingly, the garden was called Ashoka, but that was the source of greatest shoka. Shoka means sorrow. So we, like Sita, we sit in the garden of sorrow, away from our Lord. But even at that point, if we cry and remember the Lord of our life, Ram, Ram sends a guru in the form of Hanuman. And what does the guru do? He has to jump the ocean to save us. He has to leave the spiritual world and come to this world. Lord sent Hanuman from that world, or a guru from the spiritual world to the material world, crossing the ocean, the Viraj river, coming into the Lanka of this material world. And then when the guru comes, what does he do? He does three things. So what did Hanuman do? He did three things. He spoke Ram Katha, he answered the questions of Sita very nicely, and he gave her Ram's ring. And that's what the Guru does. Guru speaks Ram Katha. He gives satisfying answer to all questions of his disciples or the jivas. And he gives us the ring. Now what does the ring represent? It represents the holy name of the Lord. So we are like Mother Sita. We are sitting in the Ashok Vatika of this material world crying for Ram. And it's Hanuman who is the Guru facing Simika and Surasa and all the other obstacles that we talked about. So, like Prabhupada, he faced two heart attacks. Two heart attacks are like those Simika and Surasa obstacles. So, Hanuman in this story is Srila Prabhupada. And then Jambavan in this story is Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who has a vision but empowers Hanuman in the form of Prabhupada. So Prabhupada, being a Grahastha, he never thought he could do it. But Jambavan, in the form of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he could see it. And Prabhupada, like Hanuman, with a leap of faith, he jumped. He gave up his family contacts and listening to the instructions of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur with the holy name of Ram on his tongue. He jumped across the ocean. And Prabhupada was offered a lot of Menika Parvat, Menika Mountain, the obstacle, in the form of comforts in Vrindavan. But he rejected it all and he faced Surasa and Simika demons in the form of two heart attacks. And when he landed in the Lanka of America, he gave Harikatha. He answered questions and he gave the ring of the holy name. And he then engaged monkeys like us to unite the conditioned souls, which are like Mother Sita with Lord Ram. The monkey army is needed. This monkey army is the Vaishnava community. So Prabhupada, he said, try and preach, share Krishna consciousness with others. So here in Ramayana we see Lord, who is the supreme shelter of everyone. In the creation, he is taking shelter of the monkey army, the Vaishnavas, when he wants to give his message to the distracted, conditioned souls. And anyone who does that, the Lord becomes very impressed. So continuing with this analogy, so for Prabhupada, the spreading of Krishna consciousness far and wide was not easy, for he will be caught by so many different reporters and controversies and scandals in the form of Ravana. And they will try their best to set his tail on fire. We will see in this pastime, Hanuman's tail would be set on fire. So same, Amrendra Prabhu is in this analogy is saying that his tail will be on fire, Prabhupada's tail will be on fire, which means that um, he will be, there will be a lot of controversy and scandals and difficulties that he would have to go through. But what did Hanuman do when his tail was put on fire? Hanuman took that one spark and he burnt the whole Lanka. So Prabhupada, he took small, small opportunities and he created what is known as the Hare Krishna explosion. So when Prabhupada, he was interviewed in 1966, Prabhupada said, I have so many temples, so many disciples, and so many books. Only time is separating us. So we see what confidence like Hanuman, like Prabhupada had. And Srila Prabhupada, he is the modern day Hanuman. And people are interested in Spider-Man, Superman, and Batman. But our hero is Hanuman. Hanuman manifested as Srila Prabhupada because Srila Prabhupada did everything that Hanuman did, selflessly working to save so many Sitas in the Ashok Vatika of this material world who are suffering so much being separated from the Lord. And Prabhupada united these Sitas to Lord Ram using his monkey army of ISKCON devotees. So with that, I will stop. We have more pastimes to discuss, but maybe in a later call. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for the very elaborate descriptions from Ramayana and the lessons involved in those descriptions. Okay, so anybody has any comments?
Mata, Hanuman had a chance to take Mata Sita on his back and bring back to Lord Rama, but why he didn't do that? Instead of, the war went, so many people died.
Yes, Mataji, we read that. So Hanuman did give this suggestion, but Sita did not want to take that because what we read was she wanted to glorify her husband. So she was saying that if Hanuman would save her, then what would people think? Or did my husband not try to save me? And what the role my husband played in rescuing me? So she wanted the glory of the rescue to go to Lord Ram. And in another lecture I was hearing, I also heard that Sita was thinking that if she climbs on top of Hanuman and Ravana attacks, then how can he attack back at the same time protect Sita from falling down like that? So she was also concerned. So it's basically Sita did not like that idea.
So, is that there's so many death of so many people, the burden of karma went to Sita then?
So basically, all those were demons, and when demons, they're killed by the Lord, they go to a higher destination. So, and Krishna comes, or Lord Ram comes to remove the burden from this earth, and the burden were those demons. So the destruction of Lanka and all those demons, that was the plan of the Lord.
Now you may be thinking, well, Ram's army also some monkeys died, isn't it? Did how many did monkeys in the Ram's army
Yes,
died also?
Yeah, and I
yes.
heard that whenever they were dying, they were uh, I don't know who, but they were getting revived. So actually, no monkeys died in the place. They were picking up the dead monkeys and they were reviving them back, maybe by the herbs that Hanuman had brought. Yeah, I heard that in one of the past, and I can look into that. But none of the monkeys died, and they were reviving them back.
So nobody in the Lord's army died. Is that what?
Bali,
No Vanaras,
Bali.
no
Wali did not die.
Vali
Oh,
wasn't
sorry,
killed,
Wali. So yeah, so Wali was like earlier killed by Lord Ram. He's not part of the battle. Yes.
but no Vanaras died.
That's what I heard. Yeah, that mountain that Hanuman brought, the Gandhamadan mountain, to revive Lakshmana's life. He used the same herbs to revive the lives of the monkeys.
Hmm. Okay. And even if they passed away, we say in Dwapar Yuga, Krishna. Of course, nobody dies really because ultimately it is we are all spirit souls. So that way also you can look
Yeah,
at it.
but he was close friend of Krishna. He was
Hmm?
the monkey daddy. In real, yeah.
Which monk?
Uh, Dadhi, his name, the monkey's name was Dadhi, right? So, who used to come and Krishna used to serve them. He, Dadhi and his friends, monkey friends. Then Krishna, the Damodar Lila.
Yeah, he. So Krishna is reciprocating, and even if they died, like in this, that they died in the service of the Lord. So that's a glorious death also. Yeah.
So one thing I'm very happy to hear that when we are like Sita's soul are distressed, then Lord Himself come, leaves His spiritual world and come to our world and give us whatever necessary for to remove the distress.
Yeah, he sends the guru. Uh, he may not personally come, but yeah, the guru is the instrument through which Lord saves the souls suffering in this world.
Okay. Anything else anybody like to say?
It's a beautiful story. It's beautiful.
Thank you, Mataji.
So I was also thinking sometimes we have to do. We don't have to wait. Sometimes we have to wait, like Hanumanji was waiting even though Sita was in distress, he was waiting to do the right thing. But sometimes, if something is wrong, we have to do it immediately, address it immediately also. So it depends on the situation, correct? Sometimes you have to take action immediately. Sometimes you have to analyze.
Yes.
So, but if you don't take especially if you're in management, and if something is wrong is being done and you don't take corrective action, then it will become like a bigger problem later on. So you have to address, they say, nip it in the bud. You have to do a stitch in time saves nine. So with habits also, if you don't, then it will become very big. In but other times it depends on the situation. You have to wait for the right time. So then, even though Ravana was giving many temptations, oh, I will make you rich. This what all the, but Sita was not. So I was remembering the story of Haridas Thakur, and we have heard this many times. And Maya Devi. Maya Devi was coming to tempt Haridas Thakur. Similarly, there are so many temptations in this world, but Sita was firm in her devotion to Lord Ram. She would not get tempted. So in the same way, there are many temptations will come, many distractions will come, but of course, I'm just speaking this, but we are not supposed to allow those temptations and distractions to let us deviate from Krishna consciousness. So, although those temptations may be very, enticing and very attractive, but if you have fixed the goal, like, then we should not let those disturbances. That is how we should be ideally. I mean, I'm not like that, but I'm saying this is how we should be ideally. That if you have decided,
That is
huh? Yeah,
that's true, because if you allow the temptation, then the distraction, the result consequence will be more.
correct. So it may be pleasing in the short, like run. It may give us prayer. I mean, may give us prayer, yeah, but it may not give us shreya. And so, and as long as you are fixed on the goal, even if there is like some inconvenience, you will tolerate it, because that is, so like we were hearing that we should choose our battles. So we should not allow our, some needless confrontation and all these things to distract us from our goal. Just like if you are going on a bus, your goal is to reach the destination, right? And there may be some inconveniences in the bus, that it may be a little crowded. It may not be very pleasant to sit in the bus with so many people, uh, and things like that. But your goal is not to stay on the bus forever anyway. So you want to, I was remembering the example of crane. We have the four things: the salt, the chicken, the crane, and you. Remember that story? So in the crane is described as looking into the water, and all the small things are passing, the fish, little small. Then it sees a nice big fish and it catches the big fish. So in our life, we should be concerned with the most important things in life, and that is our bhakti, our devotion to the Lord, going back home, back to Godhead, and spreading Krishna consciousness. These are big things in life. We should not allow small things to distract us. There'll be some inconveniences, but don't worry about those. Keep the focus. Otherwise, we'll become penny wise, pounds foolish. We'll forget the big picture, the goal of life, and we'll get involved with little pennies. We'll forget. Pounds foolish means the big thing you will forget, and little things you will give so much importance. And the big thing, the chanting of Hare Krishna, and if you become too absorbed in our material situation, we'll forget to chant Hare Krishna, we'll forget to serve Krishna, and our sadhana will become weak like that. So that's also something I was thinking. So the crane is waiting for the big, he's concerned with big things in life. So we have got this human form of life for one purpose, and that is to awaken our dormant love for Krishna. So not let all the
Sometimes the obstacle, though you do not want, but it comes in front of you, and you do not have any other choice.
yeah, sometimes you have to confront the obstacles, but uh, I mean, we have not to lose the focus of, like, if I start quarreling, and you know, and I forget in that quarrel, now the quarrel is going on, and so much time is being wasted, and things like that, and then I may forget to chant Hare Krishna and become Krishna conscious, read the scriptures, but I just get involved in the quarrel, and this is the age of quarrel and disagreements. So sometimes some issues won't resolve. So don't, okay, it's beyond my, I'm not the controller. There are many situations. I'm not here to change every situation. I'm here to change my consciousness. That is the only thing I have to remember. Other situations which are beyond my control, and I'm trying to change it, and it may not change. And but I'm here alone. Actually, every spirit soul is alone, and ultimately in the long run, and I have to worry about my Krishna consciousness. Then to, like Prabhupada said, yeah, it's nice you're trying to spread this Krishna consciousness movement, but the highest realization is also to save oneself. He said you have to save yourself also. So of course we get Krishna's mercy by trying to spread this movement. Uh, that is very pleasing to the Lord. But we have to also be concerned with our own consciousness, our own sadhana. And in the course of devotional service, you may get a lot of, you know, perks, many perks. But one should not become attached to those perks and the respect and the adoration. If one becomes attached to that, then devotional service, then the focus on pleasing Krishna is lost. Then it is all about showing off. Then it may become about, it's all about me instead of being. One definition of humility means to think more about Krishna's service than to think about my own, like happiness. Prabhupada was humble. Why? Because he was thinking about more about how to please Krishna, how to spread this Krishna consciousness movement. When we are self-centered, then that is not humility. That is selfishness. Of course, if we are really self-centered, we have to know the real self, who I am, and I am spirit soul. But otherwise, so humility means also, we say, not to think of yourself, not to think less of yourself, but to think, what is it? Don't think,
Yes.
not to think
Less
less,
of yourself,
but to think of yourself less.
thinking yourself less. Yes.
Means so we have to think about, okay, what can I do to please Srila Prabhupada? What can I do to spread this Krishna consciousness movement? How I can chant Hare Krishna nicely. So, and another thing you were saying about Hanuman, I was remembering this purport from Prabhupada, Hanuman and the squirrel. The squirrel was also doing its bit, and Hanuman was doing his. Both were serving according to their capacity. So, but Hanuman was trying to, brush aside the squirrel. So he was, Lord Ram said, no, service is equally important. So every Vaishnava should appreciate the service of the others. So others are doing, we are doing. According to their capacity, they are doing, we are doing according to our capacity. Of course, we should all try to do according to our full capacity. That means we have to see whether we are operating. Sometimes what happens, we do little and we think, oh, this Krishna is so kind that even a little service is done, Krishna is very happy. That is true, but if we have more capacity, why not do more? you know we may not be able to do like Prabhupada, how Prabhupada did, but at least we should work to our full capacity. We should do whatever we can. Then we will achieve, more in Krishna's service. But we should not be satisfied with thinking that, okay, Krishna is satisfied with little service. Yes, he's satisfied, but that doesn't mean, if I have $1 million with me, and I can give so much in charity, but if I give only $1, thinking that, oh, I will give only $1 because Krishna, it says, Krishna is satisfied with even little service. So I'll give $1 with devotion. So that is good. But if we have the capacity to give, then we should give more. So, so that is also another thing, we have to remember. But of course, it will depend on our, Krishna consciousness, our detachment, and so many things like that. Uh, how much we are. And the most important event, I don't know, what were you mentioning? Something, the most important event that happens in our life is when we meet the devotees. When we meet the devotees, when we get a book of Srila Prabhupada. Um, so, so we should, like Shabari was very confident that Lord Ram will come because Matanga Rishi had said, one day Lord Ram will come. So Prabhupada also said, when you chant Hare Krishna nicely, you will see Krishna one day face to face. You will see Krishna face to face if you chant Hare Krishna. So this is how in we have to have faith in the words of Srila Prabhupada. This chanting 16 rounds and following the four regulative principles will take you back home, back to Godhead. So we have to have faith in the words of Srila Prabhupada. I'm telling to myself. And if the facilities come from preaching, there is a nice verse. Dharmasya hi apavargasya nartho arthaya upakalpate narthasya dharmai kantasya kamo labha hi smitaha. In course of devotional service, if you get facilities, then don't use those facilities for sense gratification. Use it for the service of the Lord. Don't use it for. And there is difference between patience and complacency.